common question I get asked all the time is how much money do I actually need to start an online business? So let's talk about that today. Hello and welcome to the Income Highway. This is a show where we talk all about how to build and grow your online business. My name is Paul James Carey, and as you can see, today is a navy hoodie day, so we're talking about general online business tips and tricks. Now, there's a common myth that most people believe about starting an online business, and that you need to have thousands upon thousands invested up front to actually start the online business, and that's just not true. The very first ever episode that I recorded of my podcast was actually about how you could start an online business with $0. Now, the podcast actually goes for about 25 minutes, but I'll try to compress that information into the next few moments of this video. The first method I talked about was using a website called Fiverr.com. Basically what that is you upload a gig, which is what you're planning to do for somebody, and it's basically just freelance work. Now, hence the name being Fiverr. The gigs or the jobs that you're planning on doing actually start from $5 and they can increase. So for example, let's say that your gig was that you'd install WordPress onto somebody's website for them. You could charge that person $5 to do so. Now, I know most people are watching this video thinking, well, $5 actually isn't a lot for that kind of work. But you have to remember, with Fiverr, you can also offer what's known as gig extras. They've actually also recently updated so you can offer packages on Fiverr. So as I said, your main gig, which was installing WordPress, could be $5, but your gig extras could be something like to install a theme, to install an SEO plugin, or even to install a shop by the likes of WooCommerce. So let's say that those 3 gig extras I just mentioned are also $5 each. Well, now you're actually earning $20 per gig. You could also have then another extra, which is to have the work done within 24 hours of order. And let's say that, for example, that costs $10. So now all of a sudden you're making $30 per gig rather than $5. Now, as I said, you could also set this up as a package deal for people so they can instantly buy that version on Fiverr. So for argument's sake, let's say that you get 3 orders per day where somebody orders all of those, or they order that specific package. That's $90 per day that you're making from home then. Now, I would like to mention as a disclaimer, you won't get the full $90 as Fiverr will take a small fee for having your gig on their platform, and also it will take a while to build up your reputation on Fiverr to actually get that amount of orders per day. But if you stick with it, trust me, it's definitely worth it. Now, in the next part of that podcast, I actually talked about how you could invest the money that you've made from your Fiverr gigs into something like private labeling a physical product. This basically means that you could choose a generic product, buy that from a supplier, and they'll put your brand or logo onto that product. Now, the route that most people prefer to take when they're private labeling something right now is actually use Amazon FBA. Now, for those of you who don't know, FBA is fulfillment by Amazon, which is where you can send in your inventory to Amazon, and if a sale is made on Amazon, they'll actually pick, pack, and ship that order for you. Now, most people also think that having to invest in physical products and sending them over to Amazon could actually cost a lot of money. That's also a common myth that a lot of people have in terms of starting an online business. You can actually start very small and scale up as you go. Just as a quick example, I actually only invested $30 to start my physical products business. Now, obviously over time that's scaled up and it's grown as I've gone along. If you want to hear my full story about how I did that and how I've scaled, I actually did an interview with Scott Volker of the Amazing Seller podcast, and it's episode 266. So if you want to check it out, I will leave a link for it in the description below. Now, another common myth that people actually have in terms of starting an online business is that you become a millionaire overnight, and it doesn't work like that. It's like any other business, you need to give it time to scale and grow. And that's the key to this, and that's why a lot of people actually fail, because they don't stick with it and they don't see the results that they want fast enough. However, if you are thinking about starting an online business, you could end up like Quest Nutrition, who just 5 years ago only started and obviously had zero, and now they've grown to a $500 million company. Yes, billion with a B. Now, before I end this video, I also should mention there's a few other options out there that are very similar to Fiverr. You've also got Freelancer, and you've got the likes of Upwork. So if you want, I'll actually leave a link for them in the description below also, just so you can check them out. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you want to learn more about how to build and grow your online business, please hit the subscribe button below, because there's a new video on this channel every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's also a new podcast over on iTunes every Tuesday and Thursday. If you want to specifically learn different online business tips and tricks, please see the annotation over here. Thanks again for watching this video. I look forward to talking to you in the next one. Have a fantastic day.